Bucks. All right, hey, we got some thumbs up. We got people here. Let's get ready. Let's get rolling. Nick's going to start writing down questions and telling me where people are from. We're talking about 3 reasons fairway woods are difficult to hit. So let's dive right into that. Now, the first thing is that in order to get the golf ball in the air, let me grab a couple clubs here. I'm going to grab, first of all, we got these new bags just in from Vessel Golf. These things are fantastic. Great company. They just sent us a couple new staff bags. So I'm going to talk about the first reason it's difficult to hit fairway woods. And this is going to be a little bit, you might think to yourself, obvious, but we're going to talk about how to navigate this in a second. What causes the golf ball to go in the air? Okay, what causes the golf ball to go in there? Let's start with that question. All right, now all things being equal, we're assuming that we make a good swing, we make center contact. All right, there are basically 2 things that have the biggest impact on how high the golf ball goes. Number 1 is speed. Okay, number 1 is speed. So if you've ever played golf with a young golfer who's maybe 9, 10 years old, phenomenal golfer, probably hits the ball solid every single time, hits it pretty straight, they generally speaking probably don't hit the ball very high because they don't have a lot of club head speed. On the flip side, if you've ever played golf with somebody who hits the golf ball long ways, or watched somebody who like does long drive championships or competitions and things like that, they always hit the golf ball very high. So the first thing that makes getting the golf ball in the air and makes fairway woods difficult is that in order to get the ball in the air for any club, you got to have speed. The more speed you have, the higher the golf ball is going to go in general. All right, everybody got that? Makes sense? So you probably already knew that before you tuned in here, but it's a good reminder. The second thing is, of course, the loft and the club. All right, this is a very obvious thing, but I've got a wedge here that's got 48 degrees. All right, I've got the new 7 wood here that we just came up with, the Hyper Max. All right, this has got a little bit more, doesn't have as much loft on it as the wedge, all right? So when I swing these 2 clubs correctly, all right, the one that has more loft on it, of course, is going to be much easier for the golf ball to go higher. All right, so that's the first thing that we need to understand, is that in order to get the golf ball to go up in the air, assuming we make solid contact. We're going to talk about how we make solid contact in a second. All right, you got to have speed and you got to have loft. All right, so if you're a slow swing speed golfer, it's going to be difficult no matter what we do for you to hit a 3-wood off the ground up into the air. And even some very high skilled players, even some tour professionals, okay, even like on the ladies tour, not all of them carry a 3-wood. Some of them do, but not every single one of them does, because it can be difficult to get that in the air. So, all right, now that we know why it's difficult because of the design of the club and the characteristics that are needed in order to get the golf ball up in the air, let's talk about how we navigate that, all right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is ball position, and then we're going to talk about a concept called swing direction, all right? So how we got, Nick? We got good. We got people coming in from all over. What do you think? What do we got out there? We got
Texas, California,
oh,
Canada.
Texas, California, Canada, fantastic. Where's our friends from Australia?
Sydney.
Okay, Sydney, all right. We always like them. They're always coming in. We love that, all right? Okay, so here we go. Let's get into it. Ball position. When we're hitting a fairway wood, okay, it's not like an iron where I want to hit the ball and then the ground, right? We've done a bunch of videos on that. When you're hitting an iron, you want to hit the ball, and then you want to hit the ground and probably take a little bit of a divot. When we're hitting a driver, right, we want to hit slightly up on it. Okay, so a driver, we want to hit slightly up on it. Iron, we want to hit slightly down on it. A fairway wood is right in between. All right, so let's go through this. And let me show you how you can actually find this position. Let me go ahead and grab one of my alignment rods here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place this alignment rod on the ground, straight out from the golf ball. Now, generally speaking, this isn't, 100%, but generally speaking, the bottom of your swing, folks, is pretty much equal to the buttons on your shirt. Okay? Think of that. Think of, if you're looking for a rule of thumb, think of the club's going to hit the ground where the buttons are on my golf shirt. Okay? So, knowing that I want to catch the ball on the ground at relatively the same time, and also that I'm shifting my weight a little bit forward. So everybody kind of watch this. See how I've got my buttons, over the alignment rod here? As I shift my weight forward, where do those buttons go? Obviously, they go forward, right? You know that. Okay, and that's going to move the bottom of the swing a little bit forward. If my weight goes backwards, where does the zipper go? Obviously, it goes backwards, right? So where does the bottom of the swing go? It goes backwards, right? And that's why when we talk about the vertical line swing and the vertical line swing system, we talk about weight shift, because weight shift, it's not on the board today. Nick didn't write it on the board today, okay? But how you shift your weight has a huge impact on where you hit the ground. But for today's purposes, we're going to assume that you know and that you can move your weight forward as you make your downswing, all right? So here's where I want you to position the ball. When you're hitting fairway wood, I've got the buttons on my shirt. I got this great logo on my shirt called the Masters. Beautiful place, probably the most famous place in golf. And I've got the inside of my lead arm. Where I want that ball to be positioned, folks, is off the logo on your golf shirt. So let me show you how you can find that. Then we're going to hit a shot. We're going to talk a little bit about height. And we're going to talk again about club head speed. So here we go. My feet are together. I'm going to place the club behind the golf ball. My feet are together. I'm going to take a mini step towards the target. We're talking maybe 2 or 3 inches. And I'm going to take a much larger step away from the target. Everybody see how I did that? So here we go. Mini step towards the target, much larger step away from the target. So now that ball should be positioned pretty much off the logo on my shirt. Excuse me there. Let me go ahead and make a swing. Okay, whew, that was the best one of the night. I was hitting them earlier. They were not very good. Nick is like laughing. Okay, so pretty good contact on that. Let's take a look at the information there, and then we're going to talk a little bit about club head speed again. All right, so as you can see right here, in the bottom left corner, that's the ball speed, 127.5 miles per hour. But look at the peak height. The peak height is 85 feet, okay, with a ball speed of about 127. All right, everybody with me on that? Hopefully you can see that. Ball speed 127, peak height about 85 miles an hour, all right? So that tells me the height that the golf ball got up in the air, and granted, I'm hitting the 7 wood here, so it got up there pretty good. That's pretty good ball speed for me. Now what I'm going to do, just to kind of make the point that we talked about earlier about club head speed and how high the ball goes, I'm going to make another swing. I'm going to try to swing it a little bit slower. We're going to look at the ball speed. We're going to look at the peak height and the total distance. That one carried 186 yards and what rolled out to about 200. So here we go. We're going to position the ball with the logo on the golf shirt, little mini step towards, big step away. I'm going to try to make solid contact and swing this just a little bit slower. Okay, that actually felt really solid. Quite honestly, one of the more solid ones. So we're going to notice it's not going to carry as far because I'm not swinging it as fast. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at what we got. There we go. All right, so we've got 113 miles an hour. We got 82 peak on that because I hit that one really solid. It only carried about 181, or excuse me, carried about 168, 167.8. Total distance of 180. All right. So the speed at which we swing the golf club, okay, obviously has a huge impact on how high the ball goes and how far it carries and things like that. But it also has a big impact, of course, on the total distance. And in order to make that solid contact, we want to position that golf ball so it's more off the logo on my golf shirt. Everybody with me? Give me a thumbs up if that's making sense to you. If you've got any questions, go ahead and throw those questions in the chat right now. And then we're going to talk about the third thing, and then we're going to open it up to a couple other questions. All right, here we go. The third thing I want you to learn tonight, okay, we've learned about club head speed and getting the golf ball in the air and why it's difficult. We talked about ball position because a fairway wood is not like an iron. It's not like a driver. Is swing direction, okay? What I call swing direction, or basically the direction that you swing the club in your arms. Now, there's a more scientific term for swing direction, and if you want that information, there's great people out there who can talk about the in-depth stuff there. We like to keep things simple. When I talk about swing direction, I'm talking about the direction that I swing the club in general. So I can swing that club kind of in and around and low and flat like this, which isn't necessarily good or bad. It is what it is. All right, I can swing the club more back and up like this, i.e. Jack Nicklaus, Johnny Miller. That's more up and back versus low and around. Now, here's what you've got to understand is that when you swing the club low and around, not necessarily a bad thing, but the bottom of the swing, remember how we talked about making good contact and catching the ball on the ground at the same time? When you swing your arms low and around, the bottom of the swing tends to work backwards, all things being equal. Not a bad thing, but you just got to be aware of that. Now, here's the reason that's important. Remember how we had a couple clubs out earlier? I had my fairway wood here, my 7 wood. I've got my wedge. As you look at it from down the line, you can tell, obviously, the wedge is much shorter. I'll separate them there so you can see them. The wedge is much shorter. Thank you, Nick. Zooming in there. Versus the fairway wood is longer. The longer the club, the further away from the golf ball you're going to stand, right? The shorter the club, the closer you're going to stand to the golf ball. And the further away we stand from the golf ball, the more we're going to tend to swing the club low and around. And the shorter the club, the more we're going to tend to swing the club up and down. All right, is that making sense? Okay, hopefully it is. So, why is that important to know? Well, because when you're hitting a fairway wood, all right, and the club is long, the tendency is to swing the club kind of low and around, all right, which means that sometimes we'll bottom out behind the golf ball and we'll catch on the upswing, all right? So, here's what I want you to feel, and I'm going to give you a couple checkpoints. What I want you to feel is when you swing the club back, all right, I'm going to use my alignment rod here again. So when you swing the club back, I want you to feel like the club head and the arm swing more out in front of you like this versus in and around. Okay, so here's what you're going to do next time you go to the golf course. What you're going to do is just grip your fairway wood in your lead hand, okay, and you're just going to go ahead and lift it up like this. Everybody see that? And I want you to do this because it's going to remind your body that the arms can actually work up. Okay, so this arms are just working up. Okay, so let's tie that together. When I swing the club back, and you can even put an alignment rod down on the ground. I can do this when we hit another golf shot here in a second. But the club head works more straight back. And then I want you to feel like the lead arm works more up. Everybody see that? I.e. vertical line swing. Club in front, arm up. Club in front, arm up versus club in, arm around. And that's the tendency that we see a lot of when we get these longer clubs. Okay, so let's go through the beginning. Let's take it all from the beginning. We're going to get in a couple questions, all right, that Nick's got kind of written down. If you got any other questions, throw those in the chat right now. And they could be about fairway woods, but they could quite frankly be about anything. So here we go. Number one, all right, is we're going to try to get the ball in the right spot. We want that ball to be positioned off the logo on our golf shirt, right? That's where we want it to be. So we're going to do that by putting our feet together, placing the club behind the golf ball, little mini step towards the target, much larger step away from the target. Okay, I'm going to keep the club in front, and then I'm going to let my arms work up as I complete my turn. All right, that was the best one of the day right there. And I hit that definitely pretty solid. Should be one of the longer shots I've hit. Let's take a look at the data right there. This great new system we got here, all right, from Bushnell. This thing is fantastic. If you're looking for a launch monitor, this new Bushnell one is fantastic. All right, there we go. So that peak, you could tell, ball speed was definitely up. Okay, 125. The peak height was 102. Remember, one of the other ones we had was definitely lower. Carry distance, 189. Total distance, 205. So here's what we've learned this evening. Here are the 3 reasons it can be difficult to hit your fairway wood. Number one is they're just difficult because they're longer and they don't have as much loft. And in order to get the ball in the air, you need loft and you need speed. All right? So if you're just naturally a slower swing speed golfer, it might be tough to hit that 3-wood off the ground. You might need to get into a 5-wood or a 7-wood. Number 2 is ball position can be difficult because it's not really an iron where you're hitting the ball in the ground. It's not really a driver where you're hitting up on it. It's kind of this weird in-between spot. Understand that you want it to be off the logo of your golf shirt. That's going to get you heading in the right direction. And number 3, the longer the club is, the more tendency there is for us to swing the club low and around. When we swing the club low and around, we tend to move the bottom of the swing backwards, i.e. we top it, we chunk it, we thin it. We see those types of shots. Remind your body that your arms can actually work up. They can actually work up. So when you hit a golf shot, club in front, arms work up as the body turns. That's going to get you in a pretty good spot there. All right, hey, Nick, give us some questions. For those of you who are just getting here, we were talking about 3 reasons it's difficult to hit your fairway woods. We just covered 3 really good ones. Tell us where you're from. We love hearing where you're from. We got them from all over, Texas, Florida, Australia. Anybody else from overseas? We got, England. We usually get a couple people from there. I don't know. We'll see. We got a Canada. We'll talk. Well, hey, we'll talk Canada. It's not over the ocean, but we're going to take it. It's across the border. We love our people from Canada. All right, Nick, what do we got? Give us a question here.
This one's from John from Oregon. He struggle with a slice when I hit the fairway wood. Where's the head of the club placed in relation to the ball?
Okay, great question. This was from whom again?
John in Oregon.
All right, John from Oregon. Hey, thumbs up, man. Thank you. I'm assuming you're right-handed. John, put it in the chat if you're right-handed or left-handed, and I can talk kind of specifically about that for you. But this is a great question. John says, Todd, why do I tend to slice my fairway woods? All right, once again, it's the longest club, or one of the longest clubs, has the least amount of loft on it. That can make hitting the ball straight more difficult, right? I think we would all agree if somebody's gonna give me $1 million to hit the straight shot in golf, we would probably all grab our what? A putter, right? Least amount of, a putter. Just the ball's on the ground, tap it forward, right? Super easy. Okay, but the longer the club gets, like the putter's generally the shortest club, right? The longer the club gets, the more difficult it is to control the club face. So here's what I would do. For those of you out there who tend to slice your fairway woods, this is why fairway woods is difficult. This is why, actually, quite frankly, we developed our own new fairway with the Hypermax, because it's got some more loft on it, is that here's what you got to do. The first thing you got to do is you got to slightly close your stance. Okay, slightly close your stance. And we did a whole video series on this called Tour Draw. It's in our book, okay, The Bad Lie. But I believe that, and in the vertical line swing, we like a slightly closed stance. And the reason we like a slightly closed stance is most of our golfers we see tend to slice the golf ball. And with a slightly closed stance, it helps them swing a little bit more in to out. So here's what I want you to do with that fairway wood. Back to your question. Give me just an ever so slightly closed stance, okay, which means for a right-handed golfer, a little bit to the right. So we're talking, if the pin's in the middle of the green, we're talking right edge of the green. But I want you to keep the club face aimed perfectly at the target. So my club face is at my target. My feet are ever so slightly closed. The combination of those two will help you swing the club a little bit more from the inside. Combined with that square club face should help you turn that slice into a little bit of a draw. I'm going to see if I can do it. I'm putting myself on the heater here. I don't know, Nick. Here we go. Club face square, stance slightly closed. Let me see if I can get this thing to turn over a little bit. Okay, I'll take that. I actually hooked it a little bit, but I hooked it more than a little bit. I actually had a pretty good hook. But you guys get the idea. That ball is probably going to go longer too. What you'll tend to notice is that when you draw the ball, you tend to get a little bit more roll, a little bit more out of it. Yeah, 210 on that one. Total distance carry 194. Peak 95. I'll take that. All right, that's how we do that. Let's get another question in here, Nick. Let's help people out. Let's help them play some better golf.
Yeah, so this one comes from Donnie. Says he's fairly new to golf, but is it right to say it can change trajectory just by how the club face contacts the ball?
Okay, so the question here basically, this is a good question. Keep these questions coming, group. It can be about fairway woods. That's what we're talking about this evening. It could also simply just be about anything related to golf. The question is can I change the trajectory with where I hit the club, where I hit the ball in the club face? 100%. 100%. Now, these are generalities. These are generals. I find very few things that are 100% correct all the time in golf. But if you hit the golf ball on the toe, generally speaking, the ball will tend to hook a little bit more. Okay, and I'm not a club designer, but there's reasons behind that and all the science behind that. I'm not going to dive into that because I don't know enough about it, but I can tell you this because I've hit some shots on the toe. Generally, when you hit shots on the toe, they'll tend to turn over a little bit. If you hit it on the heel, they'll tend to fade a little bit, all things being equal. Okay, and if you hit them low on the face, kind of towards the bottom here, they're what we call thin. I call it thin to win. That's actually my preferred miss, is a little low on the face because they generally fly very straight. Okay, so yes, where you hit the golf ball on the face can have a huge impact on not only the curvature, but also the trajectory of it as well. So let's do a couple other ones. Oh, good, Nick. Look, we got somebody coming in. We got him from Arizona. Fantastic. It's a good spot to be right now. All right, let's talk about some other, what else we got? And anybody else has got questions, throw those in the chat. We're here to help you out. Nick, what do we got?
So David asked, compare low versus up on the monitor. I'm assuming he's talking what or Pete?
Say that again.
Compare low versus up on the monitor. I'm assuming he means the height that you're getting on the ball.
Okay. Yeah. So how high the ball goes is kind of talking a little bit about what we first started talking about. how high the golf ball goes is a byproduct of club head speed. Okay, the faster you swing the club, the further it's going to go, but generally speaking, the higher it's going to go also. Okay, and then the loft that we deliver at impact. You know, I mean, if I swing a driver and a wedge at the same speed, which would be pretty difficult to do, but if you did, you know, the wedge is going to go, it's going to go higher. Okay. And so generally speaking, what we're looking for, and this is why I'm a big advocate for, especially my experienced golfers, my older golfers, that when you get a fairway wood, you get at least a 5 wood or a 7 wood, something like that. Okay. Because a three wood that has standard loft on it, and if you don't have a lot of club head speed, that's going to be very difficult for you to get up in the air, just because it takes speed. It takes speed to get that golf ball up in the air. So I hope that answered your question. All right, Nick, what else we got?
I got, this one's from Amos. He's from Israel, just visiting, and then back to Arizona next week. What's your pre-shot routine for fairway?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Amos, for that question. He's asked, the question is, what is our pre-shot routine? So let's go through that. This is a great question. All right, so here's what we're going to do. All right, so assume we've got the yardage. We know what the wind is doing. We've picked out a target, all the things that you do before your route and before you actually hold on to the golf club. Hopefully you've done all that. So here's what I would do for you. Number one is I would stand beside the golf ball like this, and I would always recommend that you grip the golf club in your lead hand only first, and you grip it on the side like this, okay? Now, the reason I like to grip the club on the side is because your arm naturally falls into its regular position, or its natural position, right? And then when you place your hands on the golf club, it almost instinctively produces what I call a neutral grip, meaning it's not super strong where it's rotated over on top, where the palm is facing the ground. It's not weak where it's rotated underneath and the palm is facing the sky. Most of us, when we just kind of stand naturally, our arms kind of fall to our sides, of course, and our hands just kind of point a little bit down. So step number one in the process is to grip the club on the side, okay? Then I like to bring it up front like this and place my trail hand, which is my right hand. We've got a bunch of videos we did on the grip. If you need more details on that, go ahead. So grip it on the side, my feet are together, bring it up front, trail hand comes on. Then what you're going to do is just simply knee bend a little bit and then tilt at the hip until the club comes to rest behind the golf ball. Okay, a little step towards, a big step away. Okay, and then you just look down the target line. This is probably the most important part, is how the head rotates down the target line this way. We don't want to look at the target like this because then we come out of posture. We want our head to rotate this way. So my trail eye, which is my right eye, works down a little bit. My lead eye works up a little bit. And now I'm looking down the target line. So let's take it from the beginning. Here we go. We're going to grip it on the side. Feet are together. Bring it up front. Trail hand comes on. Slight knee bend. Tilt at the hip. Tilt at the hip till the club comes to rest on the ground. Mini step towards. Larger step away. Look down the target line one. And then go ahead and pull the trigger. So that's kind of the process that I would recommend that you go through. Hopefully that helps. All right, Nick, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. For those of you who are just getting here, we talked about the 3 reasons it's difficult to hit fairway woods. Number 1 is they don't have a lot of loft and they're long. And in order to get the golf ball in the air, you need loft, you need a lot of club head speed. Number 2, ball position can be challenging because it's not an iron. You're not really hitting down on it. It's not a driver. You're not really hitting up on it. Okay, it's kind of this in between. So we want the ball to be off the logo on the golf shirt. Okay, number 3 was because the club is longer, the tendency is to swing the club more in and around. When we swing the club in and around with long clubs, the bottom of the swing tends to work backwards, which will lots of times equate to top shots, thin shots, chunk shots, things like that. So what you got to do is when you swing the club back, your swing thought is club head out in front, and then arms go more up as you complete your turn, and that will help you make a cleaner contact. All right, here we go. What else we got there, Nick?
This is going to come down again. It's if the ball is on the tee with the fairway wood, do you hit up on it like you do with driver, or do you more even playing?
Ah, good question. Okay, so the question John asked is, what about it when it's on a tee? Okay, maybe it's a long par 3, maybe it's a par 4, maybe it's a really tight par 5, and you just got to get it down there. Okay, really good question. Here's what I like to do with that, John. I like to keep pretty much everything the same as we discussed this evening, but I like to tee that thing way down. Okay, tee that thing way down. Because a lot of traditional 3-woods and fairway woods have a very kind of narrow face on it, okay? Narrow face on it. Now, and I'm not here to pitch a bunch of clubs tonight, but on the Hypermax, when we designed this club, we actually specifically asked them to make the head, this part, from taller. We wanted it to be taller, precisely for that reason. Because if you look at a fairway wood, sometimes it's kind of what I call narrow or thin, whatever word you want to use, and it's very easy to hit a sky ball where you hit it on the top and it pops up in the air, right? Okay, so keep the ball in the same spot, off the logo on your golf shirt, excuse me. Tee it down nice and low. Okay, tee it down nice and low. And if you're still struggling, maybe try out the Hypermax. I don't know. Huh? Shameless pitch. All right, shameless pitch. What the heck? All right, Nick, let's get in there. One more question. We got a lot of people here. Fantastic to see everybody coming in. A couple days before Christmas. Nick, what else we got?
This one comes from Glenn. At contact, is the club parallel with the ball?
Okay, so I think what you're asking there, Glenn, is at contact, is the club face parallel to the golf ball? I think it's kind of what you're asking. I'm assuming, like, is the club face parallel or square to the target? It's kind of what I'm thinking. Now, this is a great question. And this kind of dives into the whole concept around hooking and slicing, all right, which is a very in-depth conversation. Probably don't have time to go into that tonight, okay? But generally speaking, okay, I like the club face, okay, to be square to the target line, okay, square to the target line, and the club to be working a little bit in to out. I mean, I think that's ideal. That would produce a little bit of a baby draw. Okay, most golfers, when they come in contact with the golf ball, the face is a little bit open. Okay, so when you say parallel, that's kind of, I'm thinking that's kind of what you're looking for. Okay, now also some people might be talking about, when they say that, maybe are we talking about, is there a lot of lag? Like when I hit the golf ball, like when I hit an iron, a lot of golf instructors like to see some forward shaft lean like this. Okay, now I think that's okay when you're hitting an iron. I'm not a big, well, quite frankly, I'm not a big fan of that, just trying people to do that in general, because I think it creates a lot of tension. And I think it's very difficult to do. That's just my take on it. That's my experience, you know, to each their own. But I believe certainly when you're hitting a fairway wood and a driver, when you come in contact with the golf ball, the club head and the handle, the grip, are going to get to the golf ball at roughly the same time. Let me go ahead and just kind of give you what I mean by that. So if this alignment rod now represented the golf ball there and represented the finish line, okay, this is the finish line. I'm running through the finish line, okay. I like to feel and see most of my students have the club head and the handle reach the finish line at the same time. I don't think we want the club handle to reach early and the club head to drag behind. They call that lag. I think that's okay if you're trying to hit like a low shot or maybe even like a 7-iron. I find it, quite honestly, not to go off topic, but I find that very difficult for golfers to intentionally do. I think it happens as a byproduct of other good swing fundamentals. So I don't know, Nick, what do you think? We got time for one more question over there?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you align the sweet spot directly behind the ball, and how close to the ball at address?
Okay, good. Yeah. So the question is how close to the golf ball should the club face be at address, and where should it be? Should it be in the toe? Should it be in the center? Should it be on the heel? That's a good question. Okay. I will say this. First of all, a lot of that is personal preference, right? We've all played with a great golfer, sometime in our life who maybe had every golf ball he hit lined up off the heel. Okay, I can go ahead and do it this way for my main man, Nick, to kind of help there. So we've had some golfers, move this out of the way for you, where they line up every golf ball off the heel like this. I wouldn't suggest that, but sometimes that, you see people do. I see some people who have lined it up off the toe. I wouldn't suggest that, but if somebody was doing that and then therefore they hit the golf ball nice and straight, I wouldn't stop them from doing it. I think you definitely just want to get the golf ball lined up in the center of the face like so. I think that's the best way to do it. It makes it the easiest to return the golf ball back to the position that it needs to be. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let's review here kind of some of the things we've talked about this evening. We're going more live. I hope you guys and gals are liking this. Hey, give us a thumbs up. Do you like these live sessions? What is it that you want to see us talking about? We've got the new studio here. We've gotten great partners. Our partners here at Vessel Bags sent us these great new staff bags. Bushnell, everybody knows them for their rangefinders. Top of the line rangefinders. Hands down, not even a question. But they sent us to try out one of the new simulator, their new launch monitor. These things are awesome, and quite frankly, they're pretty reasonable, relatively speaking to some of the other ones out there. So why is it difficult to hit a fairway wood? In order to get a fairway wood in the air, you gotta have loft on the club and you gotta have speed, okay? And when you have a fairway wood that doesn't have a lot of loft, it makes it difficult to get up just simply because there's not a lot of loft on it, okay? Number 2 is ball position. You're not hitting down on it like an iron. You're not hitting up on it like a fairway wood. It's kind of in between. Make sure you get the ball in the right spot off the logo on your golf shirt. That's where you want it to be. I taught you a process on how to do that. And then probably the most important thing, the golden nugget for tonight, was swing direction. Understand that as the clubs get longer, the tendency is to swing them more low and around. That's not a bad thing. It's just something that you got to be aware of. The more the club swings low and around, the more prone it is to hitting the golf ball hitting the ground behind the golf ball, which can lead to thin shots, chunks, tops, you name it. So the feel when you're hitting your fairway wood, folks, is this. I think I got one more good shot at me, Nick. What do you think, huh? Nick, he's going to give me, okay, finally. It took me about 30 minutes to get Nick to give me a thumbs up, but finally, here's the thought I want to leave you with. When you swing the club back, when you go to the golf course tomorrow, make sure the club head works out in front like this, and then get your arm working up. So club out in front, here we go. Ball's in the right spot, off the logo on my golf shirt. Club in front, arm up. Oh, that was the best one of the day right there, folks. Those couple of things right there can help you make clean contact, can help you get your fairway wood up in the air and take what normally is a very difficult club to hit and hopefully make it easier. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. We're here to help you play better golf. And always remember, you do not have to swing like a tour pro to play great golf. And we here at US Golf TV and VLS Golf, we're here to help you play some good golf.